doing the job for Scouting. And also, importantly for you, all these things are great, but if you're not getting a positive adult volunteer experience out of all this, well, I think we might have wasted our time. But I believe once you explore this, if you haven't done it already, you will find, aha, there's something here for me, and I like this. I want to explore this because I'm getting a lot out of it. The content and the style of Scoutship are addressing equally the leadership at the NSO, regardless of level, and overall adults in Scouting. But that includes not just those people that wear uniform, but all those who support Scouting, including our professional staff that work so hard in doing what they do to support volunteers around the world. We also encourage rovers, that older age group, to take part in this, to join the exploration, join the journey, join the voyage, for they're the leaders of our future. And some of these things are focused particularly on their growth in the movement. And last but not least, we are aiming to provide support to external audiences. Now, that is an interesting one, and we'll explore that a little later in the presentation. What kind of a Scoutship user are you? That's a good question. You've probably noticed on the screen on the right that there are 3 graphics. One of those, you can see a surfer surfing on the waves. You see someone wearing a snorkel and goggles, snorkeling. And then you see someone with a tank, scuba diving, diving below the waves. And so to explore and to find out what sort of a Scoutship user are you, you need to discover that style by taking a simple test. It's not hard. Friends, if I can do it and work it out, you can quite easily. It's not hard, but let me tell you this. What I tried to do was I looked at the test and I said, well, I've done this a few times now, and I know what sort of Scoutship user I am. I wonder if I answered differently, it might point me in another direction. Wrong. No matter what I did, it focused on the style of Scoutship using that suits me for my learning and my use. Let's face it, today, young people particularly want to absorb information much more quickly. The fast pace of life says we need to do that. For us older folk, we sometimes say, well, we like to just delve in a little bit more. We can read this, that's great, but I like to find out a little bit more information. And so if you're a surfer and want to surf over the content, that's what you would be. If, for example, you were to snorkel, it gives you an opportunity that you've been over the content, but now you want to work your way in and out of the water and just to see what that's about. And then if you really want to get down and deep into the content, you need to dive in. And so whether you're a surfer, a snorkeler, or a diver, there is content relative to you and your Scoutship style there in the Scoutship. And for all age groups, from those who are younger readers to much older. And importantly, folk, please, if you want to find out where you are and to make sure you're accessing the information that suits you and what you're looking for, you need to do the quiz. It does determine what type of Scoutship user you are. I reckon it wouldn't be too hard to guess which one of those 3 I am. Some of you could probably guess straight away. I'll let you think about that. Now, as we explore, we're sailing. Now we're out on the ocean. We're going to sail the 7 seas. We're going to sail and explore the content, the 7 seas of content of Scoutship. Let's have a look at what they are. Inspiration. As the video clip quickly described, it explores our purpose, why we are scouting, what we do, why we do it, and the reason for why we exist. It's not just the world's largest youth movement, but it has a purpose. And inspiration takes us to explore that a little bit more deeply and for us to really understand what the purpose of scouting is. And importantly, it's nice to know where we've come from as we seek towards to sail to new lands and to new places. It's nice to know where we've been and our historical background. There's enough there to be able to satisfy those folk who want to explore that particular area. Being the star. This is where you learn how to develop yourself through your volunteering and really getting to understand what the Adults in Scouting life cycle is about. People often say, oh, the Adults in Scouting life cycle, oh, blah, blah, blah. But my friends, once you start to get into Scoutship, you'll see a lot of it will start to make greater sense to you and to see why the Adults in Scouting life cycle and our understanding of it is critical to our growth as adults, but importantly to the growth of our movement in providing leadership that is focused and doing what it needs to do. Oh, what happened then? Opening doors. Sorry about that, folks. When you're dealing with tiny little icons on the compass of the ship, Scoutship, some of those little icons keep bipping at me and I bipped on the wrong one. Opening doors. Learn all about recruitment, leadership in scouting, and how to stay motivated. Lots in that one and more to come. Making connections, the C of making connections. Understand the links between Adults in Scouting and the other policies of our movement. Safe from harm, for example. The World Adults in Scouting policy itself. Importantly, those other policies we've got. Diversity and inclusion. Youth involvement. Youth program. And so many others that are there. There are connections because we're not operating in isolation. We operate and work together through these various connections. Going forward, like this one, learn how to progress in your scouting job or your role or whatever appointments that you have or continue to have for your personal growth. I might have done my wood badge and I might have done a few other things as a leader. I did all the bits that I was required to do, but what else do I have to do to keep growing as a lifelong learner? Lots of things there for us to look at. Let's have a look at the hammer and nails. Interesting concept. It's the toolbox with all the tools that you need for adult development. And there are lots of things in there for you to explore. Training 101. Good practices. There are some good ones. NSAs sharing. Training programs, examples of those, and tips to boost scouting leadership and development. My friends, so far, as I've understood by looking at some of the data in the last couple of days, there have been over 11,000 hits on Scoutship globally. And it's interesting to note that one of the areas that was pursued perhaps more than the others more strongly was Training 101. Now, it's not complete by any stretch of the imagination. There is a lot more to go into that. So watch this space and see what comes as that Training 101 develops. Now, we've explored sailing the 7 Scoutship seas of the content. What are some of its very, very special features? Remember, this is an online resource. It has a particular search engine. And once you get in, you're able to, once you access the site, and you can do that, it's probably what I tell you is you probably already know, but once you access www.services.scout.org, immediately what comes up on the screen now is a graphic which shows you the new GPS for the new program and the Scoutship, the compass for adult volunteers. So you can click on that and explore from there, or you can go down to the service areas, click on Adults in Scouting and follow from there. It's quite easy to find, but once you get in, if there's something you're looking for, you know, the navigator stands up, he's looking, been on the charts, but wanting to get a land fix. So has got the telescope out there and is looking and is trying to find some particular point that says, I need to go this way. I want to find out something on Bloom's taxonomy. So in the search engine, I type Bloom's taxonomy and I click enter, and wow, up comes all these little bits of reading and links and topics that give me something further to explore about Bloom's taxonomy. Have a look at the search engine, worth an explore. It allows us to be able to have quick navigation through the content. You don't have to get in and wade your way through. If you identify yourself as a particular type of Scoutship user, you get access to that content the way it suits you. And it's quick, as you will explore as you go through. Learning zone. That's a feature. Learning path. There's another. Let's have a look at those in more detail in just a moment. And beautifully, there are different on-the-go formats, and I'll explain what they are in a moment also. And machine language translation. While we tonight are speaking English for this presentation, the other WSM languages, if you access the Scoutship in another language, you can actually get it in the languages of WSM. They are machine translations, but there's a lot of work to be done, and it's happening as we speak in being able to look at direct translation of what the content is specifically. The machine language translation is a great start for people wanting to explore. And the comment so far from those who have had a look for particularly French speakers and Spanish speakers has been, I got enough here to explore and to understand. And lastly, one of the key features is a glossary. Now you remember, my friends, that on the voyage I mentioned to you that before this was being designed also for external users. Now, while we've always, as a movement, been very careful about what we share with our colleagues in other youth organisation, it is a decision that was made that because we have direct partnerships and links with a number of other NGOs around the world, that they too get an opportunity to see what World Scouting is doing in the way we manage and work with our adults. And so this glossary allows them to be able to pick up and know something of those very interesting terms that we always use. You know, that funny language that people think that we talk strangely about when we talk about adults in scouting or better world framework or those things like community service and so on and so on. The glossary will help them to do that. And an FAQ section, frequently asked questions, an opportunity for people to sort of say, well, look, I'm not sure about this. What do I do here? Let me go there first and see if I can get my answer. So most of the content in the good ship, Scoutship, is organised as one pages. In other words, when you get in and you open up, and the topic or the particular module or the area that you are exploring, it comes up as a one page. It may be 2 pages, but generally a one pager. And making it fairly quick and easy to read. Now, so this enables the immediate use and getting the answer on a question in a very short time. And we do have answers to questions, and people do have questions that need answers for. So Scoutship can be a short view or reading while you're travelling. You might be waiting for somebody, or simply you've got a short moment of free time. Now, I'm still trying to work out what this free time means, but I'm sure some of you might know what free time is. It's an opportunity to be able to explore it the way that we want to use it. Now, I mentioned Learning Zone before. Now, this is a unique feature, Learning Zone. You can see there in the shaded part of the screen an opportunity to have a look at some of those particular policies and resources that we have online that are able to help and grow our own skill set, but importantly, link it with adults in scouting. So there's the volunteering and scouting document, Wood Badge Framework, the Adults in Scouting Life Cycle, just to mention a few. There are a lot more. And so the Learning Zone is a menu item with content that assists you, the user, in understanding and supporting volunteers more through a number of WSM policy and support documents, which are relative to our key strategic and operational priorities. Everything is interlinked and we are working together collaboratively. We're not working in isolation. And we see how we make those connections if we want to understand and support our volunteers better through understanding what those things are to explore in Learning Zone. I mentioned learning paths before. There are 4 listed there, and there are more, but managing adults in scouting. How do I manage adult roles and responsibilities might be a question I have. Or adult leadership skills. How do I improve and implement key leadership skills of adults? Or I'm particularly focused on recruitment and retention. Retention is probably the key thing. We'll learn how to recruit strongly, support and to retain adults in scouting. We often can get them, but we don't often keep them. And so there are some useful things in the learning path, adults, recruitment and retention, and so on and so on. So what are they really are? What is it they really tell us, and what are they really? So a learning path is a pathway to navigate through the content if you are doing a specific task or looking for content for a specific purpose. So it might be a question someone's asked you. It might be a question you asked yourself, or it might be a session that you want to do at a course, or you're speaking somewhere at an event. And this pathway through a particular area can help you do that. So it's a path to follow specific learning needs for the NSO or the NSA, or importantly for you, the individual. And another one of those, watch this space. There are more to come. You've got to remember, my friends, this is a new initiative, a new launch. We've run with all this material, but there's more to come, and you can have an opportunity to contribute. Let me tell you more about that a little later. Now, Scoutship on the go. Wouldn't it be nice in this modern world and at all the technological aids we have at our fingertips? Well, for most people that are able to do that these days, we live busy lifestyle and we can't always sit down in front of a computer or even take the time to focus on something specifically. We get an opportunity to access Scoutship on the go. So you can download it for your tablet, you can download it for your mainframe, your computer, or even for your mobile device. And as you explore the opening parts when you get into Scoutship, you will see how to make the connection with each of those devices so that you can access that material anytime that you like. It's learning on the go, Scoutship on the go. I mentioned about the machine translations before. It's obviously in English, as you've seen tonight, but it's also in French, Spanish, Arabic, and Russian. And as I said also, the feedback from the French and the Spanish speakers has been very positive indeed. There are subtitled introductions in the video and translated tests. So if you are not a native English speaker and you speak one of the other 4 languages that's available there, you're able to see and to interpret quite easily, particularly the video, and also to find out what sort of a Scoutship user are you. I mentioned the glossary. There are over 50 keywords and phrases. This is for our outside users, but since I found this out yesterday, my friends, some of our own scouting people, it's useful to have a glossary so we clear up some confusion over words we often use, but often we don't fully understand what they mean. Words like diversity and inclusion and equality are some of those words. So they're expressed in a way which helps our outside users and even our own people to understand our scouting terms better and as to how we are managing our adults and volunteers in scouting. The frequently asked questions, there are 25 at the moment. These are the most likely ones, but additional questions can be sent over the platform user email. So if you got something and you didn't see your question or your style of what you thought your question might be or a response, you can ask that question over the platform user email. And that is obvious when you get into the Scoutship. Here's that opportunity for you to think about these things. For questions, answers, comments and ideas, you might ask yourself these questions. I want to clarify or better understand this. I have a need for that. I want to comment about, I have an idea for future topics. And I would like to add, to this content on, And so what you can do there is that you get an opportunity to be able to input. You'd say, I'd like a better understanding of this topic. Can you give me some more information? I want to say this about this. Or simply say, I've got some great ideas related to leadership, and I think they would be valuable for other people and other NSOs. Can I provide those through Scoutship? And there's a process to do that. Before we finish, my friends, and to give you a chance as we're starting to work our way back to shore now, is to think about these value statements in terms of this brief exploration this evening. No doubt you'll get an opportunity, if you haven't done so already, to get into Scoutship and go and explore the 7 seas. But what would you say about Scoutship to the next person you meet? You could be sitting in a room now with other Scout people or even your family. Or you, in going to work tomorrow, you might know that person is connected with Scouting. What would you say about Scoutship to that person? And how would you share this information? It's an important question. How would you share this information with your NSO or NSA? Think about that, because, my friends, this is an exciting story, an opportunity for us to take our learning and development, our growth, our better understanding of adults in Scouting a whole lot further. No matter we're a leader in Scouting at the Scout unit, or whether we're the Chief Commissioner of an NSO, there are opportunities within that to be able to explore to help us do what we need to do. So I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me on the voyage. Thank you for your patience as we've explored. And if you want more information, if you haven't got this already, have a look at the particular web references as you can see there. The second one is particularly valuable. Click on the adult life cycle area and it'll take you straight there. Either or, my friends, thank you for joining me on the voyage and happy sailing on the Scoutship.
Thank you, Paul. But please don't disembark the ship yet, because we are going to entertain a few questions. One of the questions is from Delwar from Bangladesh.
Yep.
Paul, the question is, we have our adults in Scouting policy and our NSO training policy. We do learn recruitment, training, develop, and leadership, but how we relate Scoutship with AIS training? Paul?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. The Scoutship is a tool, a resource to help you support your implementation and the work you do in adults in Scouting and those other policies that you've got at that level. Particularly if you're looking from a training perspective, your training scheme, and where you are dealing with the life cycle, there are useful tools, resources, and items that you can utilise taken directly from the Scoutship, which you're able to share with the leadership within your NSO that will help you in time support the better implementation of AIS in the NSO. So it's a tool, it's a resource to supplement what you're doing. And there could be topics within your AIS policy to do with performance, the renewal or reassignment or retirement phases of the cycle as you look at for the future and so on. Those things there are also topics within. So there are so many things that you can add to your current bag of tricks, if I could use that, by utilising Scoutship to help with that particular situation. I'm not sure whether that has answered that question, but treat it as a resource and a tool to help you fill in some of those things that you might be wanting support on out of your current policies, particularly AIS. And I mentioned the life cycle because it's structured the life cycle way to help you do that.
Thank you, Paul. I hope that answers Delwar's question. If not, Delwar, you can type again on the chat box if you have a question. Next question is from Benjamin Al Hassan. Which of the sector will Scoutship fit into Wood Badge?
Ah,
Which of the sector will Scoutship fit into Wood Badge?
okay. The Scoutship is a tool for all of Wood Badge, all of adults in scouting. Wood Badge, if we take the normal, what we understand National Scout Organisations training schemes to be in the main, with introductory, basic, advanced, supplementary courses with training of trainers, CALT, CLT, and so on. There is material within the Scoutship that actually can support sessions related to each of those particular areas of training. But importantly, Training 101 has a number of exemplar training programs plus sessions written for particular aspects of that. For example, running games, pioneering at a higher level, the fundamentals of scouting, what are the essential characteristics of the youth program, those sorts of things which are part of that training program of generally any NSO. Those answers can be found, or resources that link to that, Training 101 in the Scoutship. But generally speaking, if you look at Be a Star, that has a number of topics that connect with the training area, as well as the other area that we were talking about before, which connected with the, terrible, mental blank for a moment in terms of the content. Where do I come to it? Just one second. Okay, making connections. So opening doors and Be the Star are areas that you could get to explore more, but also a look at going forward. And I mentioned before about Training 101. Have a look at those particularly, and you pick up resources. Got to remember that this is replacing the old World Adult Resources Handbook, and it's structured not the same, but in a more flexible way to be used the way that you see fit in your NSO at whatever level you wish it to be used.
Thank you, Paul. The questions are coming in. How to register yourself in, well, I don't know if this is connected, but how to register yourself in volunteering community service. This is from Emily May of Malaysia.
Well, the Scoutship's not going to look. Okay, if I read the question correctly, we're talking about Scoutship being a resource, and within that there are topics related to volunteering. There are topics related to how you might go about that and do that. So I'm not quite sure what the intent of your question is. Are you looking at to get ideas for getting volunteers through Scoutship, or is there another part that you're looking for?
Okay, maybe while she's clarifying the question, we can skip to that. Do we need to log in via our own scout.org? Scout.org, or do we need to create a new account to do the?
No, you use your own scout.org. Once you're in, you can access, click on services, and you should be able to get through there.
Next question is, what are the challenges in the management of adults in scouting, by Terry Jayasuriya?
The challenges of managing adults in scouting. Well, how much time have you got? Okay,
Exactly.
let's pick up just one or two of those. One of the key things that is often overlooked is that if you're talking about implementing adults in scouting, we've got to get our mindset right within the organisation to say, firstly, we need to analyse what our needs are in terms of the NSO. In other words, we've got particular roles or responsibilities. What sort of roles, or what sort of jobs, what sort of people do we need to be able to do those jobs or those responsibilities? So having role statements that match what the NSO is targeting. In other words, if you want more scout leaders or you want more commissioners, is it the duty statements or the role statements that you've got? Are they up to date? Are they current? And are you really searching and recruiting the right person for the right job, for the right time, and for the right place? Or are you just saying, because that person is standing and breathing, oh, they could be a scout leader? So some of the challenges are simply, one, we don't get the right person because we're too keen to recruit by crisis rather than really looking at the job and saying, this is what this job requires. We need to get a person that can fit that particular role. And of course, the training that we offer often doesn't match, because training programs in some places around the globe, some of those programs haven't been reviewed for a long time. So if you're wanting to implement adults in scouting, you need to make sure that A, you're getting the right people for the right job, your adults in scouting recruitment, your policies, your training schemes are all reviewed regularly, up to date, so you're providing the best service you can for volunteers, and your youth program ditto. But importantly, one of the other challenges is we never thank people enough. We often just expect that because they become a leader and they'll do a job, that's great. But even a simple thank you can make the world of difference to many people and encourages them to keep doing what they do. So right people, right job, policies that are up to date and relevant, and programs, but importantly, recognising those adults for what they do. It's when you don't pay attention to any of those, you'll get the challenges.
Thank you, Paul. The captain of the ship is now very thirsty.
I'm just thirsty. It's that salt air.
Thank you. Okay. Maybe one or two last questions before, because we are over an hour now. So about performance management.
Yes.
Who can we evaluate this process, and any specific criteria, or it depends on the National Scout Organization? Paul?
Okay. If we're true to adults in scouting, and we think about the three phases of getting the right people introduced, we train them and we support them. And then in that final phase where we get a chance to have a conversation and review what they're doing, finding out how they've gone, encouraging them to do other things for the future, but importantly, recognising them. Often we tag the issue of getting an opportunity to sit down with somebody. Come and meet me, we're going to do a performance appraisal. Oh, shock, horror. That for many people becomes quite scary and quite frightening. And I guess for the performance that the Adults in Scouting policy encourages is that they are conversations between people. Admittedly, there might be a form or there might be a document to guide that performance, but really it's something that the NSO generally establishes. There may be some at local level, depending on local conditions, if some of that responsibility is devolved down to other levels. But normally the NSA or NSO sets the standard on the performance appraisals, management, or the development opportunity of the leader and or the adult, as the case may be, and it's processed from there. Important thing is that we do that we do get a chance to sit down with somebody, because one of the greatest turnover situations and why we lose a lot of people is because Some people will say, and I've heard it myself, no one ever stopped to talk to me about what I do. They never even bothered to find out how I was going, and I really felt that I was never supported and I never got a simple thank you. So bearing all that in mind, recognising them and finding out how they're going and encouraging them for the future is an important part of adults in Scouting.
Thank you for that, Paul. I think this is the last question. I think this is important for all the 235 participants to hear. Okay, so is it okay for the National Scout Organization to adapt the adult life cycle of WOSM, Paul?
Is it okay? Wow. My friends, and whoever asked that question, one of the interesting things is that we've always looked at leadership within Scouting with a particular lens. And it's always been one that says, as I mentioned before, if you're upright, you're breathing, oh, you could be a Scout leader. Great, come down on Friday night. That often never worked. And often you put, as we would say, you put a square peg in the round hole. And so what the adults in Scouting idea of philosophy or thinking is, and that related to the life cycle, is that you're recruiting the right person for a specific purpose, the right job, the right time, and the right place, that you are training them or preparing them to use the skills they've currently got and to build on those skills by giving them other training opportunities, professional development, and supporting them all that way to do the job that they do and to review what they do. If you do all of those as the life cycle would suggest, friends, I know from experience from a number of NSOs where they are very strong in their AIS policy and its implementation. Their leadership is strong because they feel supported and want to do the job they do for young people. So it's really a no-brainer. It's the way we operate with adults in Scouting. It's key and critical to make sure we grow and develop if we implement it the right way.
Thank you, Paul. So if you have more questions, so we will stop here for the question and answer. If you have more questions, the Scoutship also allows you to raise the questions. The Scoutship is being maintained by a group of experienced people like our captain, Paul. So if you go to the frequently asked questions below that, there's a form that you can type your questions in and then click send, and a group of people behind will answer your questions. It will also help build the questions on the frequently asked questions. As a closing remark, okay, let me. As a closing, we go back to the purpose of Scouting, which is the education of young people. We go back to young people. So if I always like to compare this Scouting as a Bollywood movie. Inside the Bollywood movie, there's heroes, there's actors and actresses, but the great heroes here are young people themselves. Scouting exists for the purpose of developing these young people, and because we should not forget the adults here, the 230 participants here, that we are all existing because of young people. And it is important for us to be better trainers, better adult leaders, better unit leaders, so that we can implement quality youth program for the benefit of young people. So, with that, we would like to thank everybody. I will pass the screen to Aimee because she needs to. She has two slides of some sort of evaluation. Aimee?
Yes, thank you. Maybe request the participants to kindly kindly answer this two slide Menti. Actually, I already shared the link in the chat box, so you can just click it.
Okay, so Aimee shared the Menti link on the chat box. You click the link, and when it generates the page, you type 3805631. It's shared in your screen. So there's only two questions. So what you see in the screen is a um, live feed from our Menti. Okay, so you can keep on answering this. At the same time, we will slowly bid goodbye. Good night, everyone. Please promote the Scoutship to everybody. This is recorded, but you can always visit Scouting in the Asia Pacific region Facebook page to see the recording. Um, and you can always share and enjoy the resources you can find in Scoutship. With that, thank you very much, my twin brother Paul. Thank you to JR, who has to leave earlier because he has a World Scout Committee briefing. Um, and we also like to thank Tadej, who is in the background. I know he is present, who has supported us with this broadcast. So thank you, Aimee. Please, it's important for us to know certain feedback. Please do the Menti, and thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.